Hi and welcome back to Take It Out. I've made several unboxing and review videos now of various action cameras, but I was asked recently about what type of SD cards you should use with them, or rather they should be micro SD cards with most of them, if not all of them. So I thought I'd make this quick video just to explain a little bit about the SD cards that go in these cameras and why it's important to get the right one. So I've got a few here at the moment with me to show you. The first of them are SanDiscs, there's two there, and then you've also got a Samsung. These are generally regarded as some of the better makes. There are others out there, many others, and there's also professional versions, but I might mention that a little bit more about that later. First of all, we look at the first one here, the SanDisc. They're all 64GB, all three of them. They all look very much the same, and on the outset they all look exactly the same. Even if I turn them over, they all have the same pins and everything. The only difference really with them is what's written on the front. Now on the SanDisc there you can see it says SanDisc Ultra 64GB and it says micro SDXC 1. That one is regarding the bus that is built into it that controls the read and write. Not really important for what we're talking about, but maybe important for other cameras. The more professional cameras, 8K cameras, that type of thing, you may want a faster bus. But for the cameras we're talking about at the moment, micro SDXC 1 is fine. The other number there is in the little, well, it looks like a letter C, and it's a number 10. You may also find these now with the letter U and the number 1 inside. It's the same card, it's just they've revised the way it's actually designated from what looks like a C10 to a U1, and that means that they have a minimum write speed of up to 10 megabytes per second. So these cards, although they're 64MB and although they're exactly the same as the others, have a particular write speed, and this little number here designates what that speed is. So the 10 or the U1 would designate this to be a card suitable for 720p or 1080p video, and also for any type of photography really. So that's the first one. The next one then you see is the SanDisc, sorry, the Samsung. Now the Samsung looks exactly the same. It's got the 64GB micro SDXC class 1, and then it's got the U3. Now you may have guessed already, but that 3 designates the minimum write speed, and the minimum write speed of this card is 30 megabits per second, sorry, 30 megabytes per second. So that's this card. The final one is the SanDisc Extreme 64GB, and it looks exactly the same. The only difference is now you've got not only 64GB micro SDXC and the U3, but you've got V30 in the corner there as well. Again, this designates that this is a minimum write speed of 30 megabytes per second. And I have tested all these in, I'll show you the little program I'm using at the moment. And when I put this one in, it came up as between 9 and 11 megabytes per second. This one came up as 60 megabytes per second. This one came up as 66 megabytes per second. So although they are rated at 30, they can be faster. The difference between this one and this one is quite simply that this one is 30 megabytes per second for a short period of time. This one is 30 megabytes per second over a longer period of time. So this one, if you're making a video and you need the extra speed because you're using 2.7 or 4K, then this is the one you need. It is sustained 30 megabytes per second write speed. So 1080p, you could use this for 2.7, you could use it for 4K in 30. You may find that you have some losses in sound or stuttering or even hanging of the camera. So it could work, it could not work, depends on your particular camera. But this one should work with any really 4K camera up to 30 frames per second. The thing is now that cameras are coming out which have 60 FPS at 4K. So to deal with that, we need a faster card again. Now there are two other levels above V30, V60 and V90. And you've probably guessed already that V60 means 60 megabytes per second sustained write speed. And remember the sustained part. And 90 megabytes per second sustained write speed. Now I was very blessed, or lucky, whichever way you want to put it, when I went on eBay, because I found a deal there, and this is the card I found. It's, if I can get the focus in, a DSP Memory DE, so it's a German card. They usually make good products, of course, the Germans, and it's a 64 megabyte card. And I don't know if you can actually see that, but it's a U3 SDXC class 2, and then it's V90. So it's got a 10 megabyte per second, so you can use it for any camera really. It's interchangeable with the class 1, but it's also U3 V90, up to 90 megabytes per second. Now I'll get this out quickly. So here's the new card. As I said, it's 90 megabytes per second sustained. This, along with the V60, is quite capable then of being used with a 4K camera in 60 FPS. In fact, because it's a V90, it's usable with up to 8K cameras. Now, you may think, well, there's not many 8K action cameras out there, but quite a few of the 360 cameras that you see are either 5.7 or the newest ones are 8K. So if you've got a 360 camera, you need a V90, definitely. I wouldn't go for anything less. Otherwise, as I said, you'll have audio losses, hanging pictures, or you may even have hang-ups on the camera itself. I've tested this one. Now, the difference with this one is, as you can see on the back, if I bring in one of the other ones, it's actually got a second row of pins on it as well, which means you need an actual reader that's capable of reading a V90 or a V60 card, and also the camera has to be set up to be able to use that particular type of card. So there are the cards. I'll show you the listing that is on Amazon, and if I bring all the others back in. Now when I went on Amazon, I got a really good deal, and this one here, the V90, cost less than some of these here, even the C10 card. This card, this DSP, cost me £25, but then it applied a voucher for me and I actually got it for £20. So I got a card which any of the contemporary sellers sells for around 45 up to 150 to £200 if you go for the Pro versions. Now the difference with the Pro versions quickly is that they are guaranteed to be more stable, less likely to break down over time, but I must admit I've only ever had one or two cards ever break down on me over time, and they were old cards in a bad unit that basically destroyed them. So yes, the Pro cards are there for the Pro users who have to make sure that they have their photos and everything. They must be able to keep them safe, but if you're doing that, then you need a double card slot in your camera, which action cameras don't generally have. If you are going for a new card, if you can get this deal, go for this, because it'll be upgradable through whatever camera you have. If you upgrade your action camera to a GoPro Black, GoPro 9 Black, this card will work in it. If you upgrade your camera to the newest of the 360s, this card will work in it. If you can get this card, go for it. It's the best card that you can get for the least price. If you can't get this card anymore, go for one of the other V60s or V90s. I would start to tend to move away from the ordinary U3 V30s unless you only intend to shoot in 1080p or 2.7K. I hope it's been useful to you, and thank you for watching.